sticker on a 2004 Camry. Some have been there for hours. Why? Because the sticker has yet to salute them back or dismiss them. Every single thing you do online is monitored. Yes, even the things you do late at night when you think that no one is watching, well, really, someone's watching. Even if that someone is an ISP harvesting all of your personal data. Do you really want all those companies out there knowing that you do searches for giant anime titties or hot stepmoms or whatever? No, of course not, which is why you should use a VPN service. When I go online, I use ExpressVPN, which reroutes my connection through a different server so my ISP can't see what I'm doing. And on top of that, using a VPN will give you access to content that you normally couldn't see due to your location. Did you know that on Netflix, YouTube, and pretty much every other platform out there, there's content that you can't see based on where you are? Well, with ExpressVPN, you don't have that problem. You can just change your VPN location and voila, unlock all that content. So between protecting your data and unlocking extra content, ExpressVPN is a win-win. You can get 3 months of ExpressVPN for free by going to expressvpn.com/r/. That was r/malicious compliance, and if you like this content, check out my Patreon where I publish extra episodes. Also hit that subscribe button because I put out new Reddit videos every single day.
Welcome to r Welcome to r/pro revenge. Today we find out what happens when r/entitled parents meets r/pro revenge. So this happened earlier today and was too perfect to not share with you guys. I work in construction as the foreman for a new house build. The location is kinda strange. The house is 250 feet up on a hill via a footpath only. All of our materials have to come up this footpath by hand. It's a pain in the butt to manually carry quite literally an entire house up this hill. One of our saving graces is having the 2 parking spots on the street at the bottom of this hill marked with official no parking signs. Unfortunately, there's an elementary school about half a block away, and the parents of children seem to regularly, at least twice a day, think it's okay to park in our spots. Now, I consider myself a reasonable person, so if someone is parked in the spots and we don't have a delivery or a need to park a truck, I will let it go. If I need the spots and there's no one parked there, however, I will ask them to move nicely, and most of the time they will do so immediately. Until today. I get a call from the lumber delivery truck that is en route to our location. He says he'll be there in about 2 or 3 minutes. I let him know I will meet him at the street and make sure he has a space to park. He's carrying all of the materials to frame the roof of our house, which is a lot of really big lumber and will take easily an hour to bring up the hill. So naturally, I didn't want him parked in the middle of the street with his hazards on for an hour when we have a perfectly good parking spot for him. As I begin my trip down the hill, I notice there's a school parent sitting in her car idling. Assuming she's just waiting to pick up her child, I walk up to her car and politely let her know that she is parked in a no parking zone and we really need her to clear it to park a delivery truck. She scoffs at me and rudely states back, "I'll just be a few minutes and your truck isn't here. Take a chill pill, dude." Before I can respond, a giant lumber truck comes around the corner and I wave to him, and then gesture towards him to the woman in the car who has now put her window back up to ignore me. I put on my best customer service smile and wave at her through the window. She put it down halfway and angrily shouts, "What?" By now, the truck has pulled up alongside her car and I politely ask her again with a stronger tone of voice to move her vehicle, reminding her that she is illegally parked in a tow-away zone. Then she gives me this wonderful idea. She says, "Can't you guys just unload around me? Jesus, it's not that hard." I give her another smile and walk away, a brilliant plan forming in my head. I instruct the delivery driver to park as closely to her as possible and block her in with the porta potty that is on one end of our reserved spot and the car that is parked just adjacent to our spots on the other end. He smiles because he immediately gets what I'm trying to do and proceeds to expertly block this lady and her car into a little 2 parking spot jail. We unstrap the lumber and my guys begin humping material up the hill. Meanwhile, I call the police parking enforcement to let them know the situation. At this point in time, I wasn't trying to get her in trouble. I just wanted a record of why we were blocking part of the street so we don't get in trouble with the city. The very friendly traffic officer lets me know that she can be there in about 30 minutes and deal with the situation for me. Wonderful. As we continue to unload lumber, the child of the parent shows up, and wouldn't you know it, Mom is just now realizing that the lumber truck is parked so close she can't get out of her driver door to meet her kid. She awkwardly clambers across the inside of her car and stumbles out the passenger door, shooting glaring looks at me and the truck driver in the process. She loads her kid into the back and then begins to realize that she has no way of leaving. She comes storming up to myself and the driver and states, "I'm in a big hurry. You need to move your freaking truck right now so I can go." Before I can respond, the driver gets a grin on his face and says, "Ma'am, in order to unload the lumber on the truck, we had to unstrap it. And per our company policy, I'm not allowed to move the truck with any unsecured load on it. Sorry." This sends her into near aneurysm levels of blood pressure. Meanwhile, I can barely contain my laughter. "F your policy, I have somewhere to be," she barks back at him. At this point, with impeccably convenient timing, the parking enforcement officer shows up and parks behind the truck. She doesn't see the officer arrive, and while the officer is still getting out of her vehicle, I just casually say, "Can't you just pull around it? It's not that hard." With the biggest shit-eating grin I've ever had, I watch as she realizes that I just used her line on her. "F you!" she yells and storms back to her car and angrily clambers back in through the passenger door and into the driver's seat. At this point, the officer is walking up to myself and the driver. Before she can even introduce herself, the mom in the car slams it into reverse and stomps on the gas, crashing into our porta potty and knocking it over, and then throws the car into drive and tries to mount the curb and drive on the sidewalk. The officer, driver, and I are staring in disbelief as she gets halfway over the curb and gets stuck. I can hear her screaming obscenities over the idling truck from inside her car. The officer promptly walks up to the door of the car and orders her out. My favorite part of the entire thing is watching her face go to shock as she realized she just did all of that in front of a police officer. She gets slapped in cuffs as the parking officer calls for a second unit, and she is promptly sat on the very curb she tried to drive over. She sits on the curb yelling to the now 2 officers about how we told told her she could stay there and that we never asked her to move. The traffic officer responds that she was the one who was originally called when she first refused to move and that she already knows what's going on. While myself and the driver are giving a report to the second officer, my guys finish moving the remainder of the lumber and the driver finishes his statement and takes off to go back to the yard. By the end of the ordeal, she was arrested, charged with child endangerment, her kid was in the back of the car the whole time, reckless driving, destruction of property, the porta potty, and driving on a suspended license. On top of all that, she also got her car towed. The kid went home with his grandma and she went to spend some quality time in a cell. I never expected her to actually heed my advice to just pull around it. But I think next time she'll probably think twice about parking in a tow-away zone if she ever gets a license again. Oh, it's so beautiful. This is what happens when entitled parents meets pro-revenge. While walking to my gate at LAX airport, I noticed a woman whose dog was in the middle of doing its business. The woman was loudly FaceTiming with her back to the dog, so I assumed she didn't notice. That was likely the thought shared by the gentleman who tried to get her attention. "Excuse me, miss," he said in a polite tone. The woman glared at him. "Your dog," he sheepishly continued, pointing to the mid-poop pup. The woman rolled her eyes and went back to FaceTime as the man slinked away, seemingly embarrassed. "Some people," she bellowed to her FaceTime companion with no hint of irony, "are just so darn rude." When her dog finished, the woman started walking away, leaving everything right on the airport floor. Another woman tried to stop her. "You're not going to clean that up?" she asked, as shocked as the rest of us were. "They have people for that," the offender replied, disappearing into the crowd as much as someone yelling into their phone can disappear into a crowd. I stood near the pile and warned people to walk around it while someone else got a maintenance worker's attention. No one said anything. We were so shocked that anyone could be that horrible. When I got to my gate, the woman was there too. Great, we were both going to Tokyo. When I travel abroad, I get embarrassed by other Americans doing things 100 times less embarrassing than leaving animal feces on the floor of the airport. To make it worse, her dog was now barking at everyone who walked by. I have nothing against people flying with their dogs. I do it often, but it is a privilege I take seriously. My dog is well trained and behaves better than most people. He certainly behaves better than that butthole. Speaking of buttholes, there is a pet relief area inside LAX, past security, just 2 gates away from where the party pooper let her dog go to town. It didn't matter. She was the type of person to litter 3 feet away from an empty garbage can. While her dog barked at the world, the woman had moved from FaceTiming with no headphones to listening to music with no headphones. I don't like to throw around the word sociopath, but I don't know how else I could explain just how selfish and terrible of a person she was. I'd bet her car was somewhere in long-term parking, parked across 3 spots with paint on the bumper from the child's bike she hit without leaving a note. Everyone else tried to ignore her, sitting as far away from her as they could. I am not everyone else. I sat down right next to the horrible woman. "Are you going to London on business?" I said. "I'm going to Tokyo," she responded gruffly, annoyed that I had interrupted her DJing. "Oh," I said, "then you better hurry. The flight got moved to gate 53C. This is the flight to London." I figured I could give her a little moment of panic as payback for how terribly she was treating everyone. I didn't predict what would happen next. She grabbed her bags and her dog in a huff and stormed out of the gate without even checking. She was so self-involved, she didn't notice that the monitor at our gate still said Tokyo and almost everyone at the gate was Japanese. Based on her actions, she believed me that the flight had been moved, so she's also a butthole for not thanking me. Some people, I thought as I watched her rush away from the gate without stopping her, are just so darn rude. The flight to Tokyo was at gate 69A, so the 53 gates were on the other side of the next terminal. And I felt guilty knowing she probably berated some poor clerk who had to explain to her that there was no gate 53C. I don't know if she made it back to this flight before we took off or not, but I didn't see her board and I don't hear her dog. Her missing her flight was not my original intention, but it would be a fine punishment for her being so rude to everyone and making a low-paid stranger clean feces off the floor. What makes me wonder if I went too far is the knowledge that Delta only has 1 flight to Tokyo each day. Whoops! Maybe she can rebook on another airline. I hear they have people for that. I would spend actual money. I would spend those big ol' YouTuber bucks to watch that airport security footage of this woman when she gets to the wrong gate and realizes she missed that flight. Oh my god, I would pay anything to watch that footage. We live in a small private neighborhood. The neighbors are related to us more or less, distant relatives. Everybody here is a complete nut job. They were constantly arguing over decades before me or my brother were even born. Our property line is kind kind of like a square, and it is surrounded by road from two sides. Keep in mind that on one part of the road, we let our neighbors use 1 square meter of the land so they could use the road safer and not damage our property. This is crucial information. This road is made of gravel. The neighbors want my parents and only my parents to pay for the entire cost to lay an asphalt road. My dad and my mother are constantly fixing potholes for 90% of the road, so naturally our neighbors thought that they will pay for the asphalt road. Classic choosing beggars. Fast forward 20 years, the road remains gravel-ish. Nobody wanted to pay for the asphalt road. One day, my neighbors order a massive truck filled with tons of wood. The truck driver runs over our fence. Nobody wanted to pay for the damage. Our fence is made out of multiple bushes, trees, and a little bit of metal fence too. These plants were now completely destroyed and a part of the metal fence completely bent. We had to replant these plants and place a new metal fence. My father told me this was not the first time this happened, but actually the third. I couldn't believe it when I heard this. So this is where the revenge begins. My father is a police officer in the department where they mostly handle frauds, drug busts, etc. He knows the law well. He dug up the property line marker and placed plastic barrels filled with rocks on our property. In the next 6 hours, 3 of our neighbors came knocking on the door because they hit our plastic barrels filled with rocks. They were angry and wanted to call the cops, but they never did because everyone knew that little part of land was still our property. One neighbor in particular threatened my dad that he will throw a frickin' pickaxe at my father's back. Over the period of 1 year, these neighbors hit the barrels so much with their cars that the barrels are now worthless. My dad was furious and he changed his petty revenge into pro revenge. He cut some wood to use it as a mold. He bought cement, sand, and metal poles. One peaceful afternoon, my father and I cemented that whole part of the land and placed some lovely flowers on top. So when they hit the concrete, they can smell our flowers of victory and defeat. As we expected, 5 neighbors in total wrecked their cars on the new fence and nobody came knocking on the door. And as an added bonus, we have a picture of the revenge wall, but I feel like it's missing something. Ah, there we go. It's amazing what just a touch of paint would do. That's what I would put on my new fence. What would you write on your new car-destroying concrete fence? Let me know down in the comments. I would love to hear your suggestions. And if you like that, I got another one for you. When I was little, our next door neighbors were the biggest buttholes. They constantly messed with us, insulted us, threw garbage on our house, etc. One thing they used to do was knock over these wooden poles we had in our grass, the part that separates our houses, with the bumper of their SUV and drive through our grass to get to their driveway. And when my dad would confront them, they would always tell us off and say, "Sue me." This happened a lot, and my dad waited till they were gone on vacation and dug all the poles out, then made the holes really big and proceeded to fill them all with big bags of concrete. Then he put new, longer poles in the grass back and waited. Well, when they got back, it wasn't but a few days later we hear a bang and go outside and see the back of their SUV all jacked up. Our neighbor proceeds to lose his cool, saying my dad had to pay for the damage, and my dad just smiled and said, "Sue me," and walked back inside. That was r/pro revenge, and I just wanted to say very quickly, thanks to everyone who's supporting my channel. The growth has been absolutely insane. I hit 100,000 subscribers on Monday, and then I hit 200,000 subscribers on Friday. So I'm gaining about 100,000 subscribers every 4 days, give or take, which is insane. So if you like my content, please subscribe because I want to bring you guys a bunch more videos. Welcome to r/pro revenge, and in today's episode, a stuck-up entitled mom gets thrown in jail. You're not gonna want to miss this one. So, I used to live in Deutschland, and upon returning to fair Blighty, the UK, I began looking for work. Being a simple man of simple needs, I quickly found employment in the marketing department for a medium-sized industrial manufacturer. It was a little below my experience level and qualifications, but I take what I can get because I am a simple man. At the final interview, I mentioned it would be top banana if I could arrive 5 minutes early and leave 5 minutes early on most days so I could catch my train. With a smile, my new boss, hereafter referred to as Mentirosa, which means liar by the way, said, "Of course, it's only 5 minutes and I'd still be working the full 8 hours. Sin problemas, OP, and welcome aboard." My first day comes and I ride the choo-choo all the way to my new workplace, eager to begin. I quickly learned that the lunchroom is pure stank. Senior staff put their name instead of mine on any trade article I get published, and that our job mostly consists of extorting money from our own sales staff, but that's life. I am a simple man, and so I set about my labors, glad to earn a crust. What really flogged my noggin, however, is La Mentirosa calling me into her office on the second day and telling me I can't leave early again because it is unprofessional. I remind her of the conversation we had in which she said, with her mouth, the words, "It will be no problem for you to arrive and leave 5 minutes early." She smirks and replies, "Maybe I said that, but is it written in your contract?" Touché, you big ol' Mentirosa, touché. I shrug and get on with life, because that's life. But of course, I start looking for other work. By making me stay the 5 minutes, La Mentirosa makes me miss my train and turns my 2 hours daily commute into a 4-hour one. Yet appear, I don't know how to pronounce that, so I'm just going to say, bliat! I do not want this. I am a simple man and need my downtime. About 2 weeks later, the company goes on a firing spree. One of those people fired is me, because I have been quite openly looking for other work. I am given 2 weeks notice and smugly told I am not good enough for this place and that I will never work in the area again because of La Mentirosa's contacts, as she Snapchats the news to the rest of the team. I joke not. I reflect that she is probably right, as I am a simple man. Among the other victims of the purge is the regional sales manager for Germany. This is more important to the company than my meaningless departure, since the company also decided to end the contract with their biggest German distributor, and so suddenly a huge part of the company's core market is not active and they have no salesman to find them a new distributor. Management panics until La Mentirosa remembers that her despised marketing bandit is a fluent German speaker, and so the fun begins. She asks me to step up to the plate. "Be a buddy, old pal. I didn't mean it when I said you'd never work in this town again." I am a simple man, so rather than point out that I am not being paid anywhere near what I could earn as a translator, rather than remind them that they have just fired me and I am not their friend anymore, rather than asking, "Is it written in my contract?" and then smirking like an obnoxious dingwall on a high horse made of douche, I instead swallow my pride and agree to help out. It is here that the twin revenges, named inadequacy and abandonment, make their entrance. Firstly, inadequacy. During every conversation I mention my job title, advertising assistant. When the friendly Teutons politely ask why a lowly assistant is negotiating this kind of deal, I simply explain that the regional manager was let go and there is no formal replacement. This is entirely true, but it is also a huge red flag for any serious company, especially well-established German manufacturing firms, and combined with the temporary uncertainty regarding Brexit, which had been announced only a few days prior, was enough to kill any interest they had in becoming our next distributor. Secondly, abandonment. As I am a simple man, I forgot to tell La Mentirosa that I had already received and accepted another job offer. She was thrilled at the praises she was getting from management for finding a stopgap solution to the catastrophic damage they had done to themselves. And she asked me if I could actually stay on with the company until they secured a new distributor, since I obviously had nothing better to do with my time, being fired and all. I assured her there were no hard feelings over my firing and that I would stay to help as long as I could. On the day I was originally due to leave, I held my calls, drew up a summary of where we stood. It was effectively a sad emoji followed by a poop emoji, handed it to La Mentirosa, and explained I was leaving to enjoy a week of holiday followed by starting a new job in a different field. She sputtered. She couldn't believe it. She thought I would stay longer to help clean up the mess. They still had no distributor and no sales manager for Germany. They were hemorrhaging money. She called me out, reminding me I said I would stay. But I am a simple man, and so my only reply was, "Maybe I said that, but is that written in my contract?" Here's where I would normally describe how I feel about the story, but since I am also a simple man, I will instead use emojis. I will rate it a crying while laughing to represent myself, and a skull emoji to represent the career of La Mentirosa. If you are also a simple fan, let me know down in the comments how you feel about this story using only emojis. Flashback to 2014 or so. I moved out on my own in 2013 and moved into an old house converted into a 2-floor apartment directly across from my future in-laws. The downstairs neighbors were loud, blaring music at all hours, yes, all of the hours, wouldn't cut the grass or take out the trash on our shared schedule. Crummy neighbors, but they never bothered me directly. The guy was pretty chill when sober and would turn the music down a little when I texted him. He was okay until his girlfriend moved in. Now add shouting matches to the mix and all of a sudden my request to turn down the music makes him turn it up. I can barely walk on my super thin floor without her banging on the ceiling with a broom. I was okay since I am a heavy sleeper and could sleep through anything. My wife moved in and I quickly found out that she is quite the opposite. Fan on, turned at a certain angle in the door of the bathroom, door closed halfway, blackout curtains with them taped to the wall so zero light comes through, zero sounds other than the fan, you get the idea. I told her we can't expect them to remain silent when she's ready for bed. We need to be reasonable. But the wall rattling music needs to stop during the night. She hated it during the day, but I told her there's nothing we can do then. So she would go to her parents' house a lot during the day. I talked to neighbor guy. He said, "Yeah man, that's cool." But it turns out the girlfriend wasn't having it and his attitude then changed to, "Yeah, well, it's our house, so you can go F yourself if you think you can tell us what to do and you can move out if you don't like it." Something definitely had to change once she got pregnant and the baby came. So I did the only thing I could do. I fought fire with fire and maliciously complied with the law to the T. I could only report them for noise after 11 p.m. I now forget the morning hour when the noise could start, but I believe it was 9 a.m. My dad had these huge old concert speakers in his garage. Professional grade, black leather bound, 5 feet tall and 3 feet wide, and a pretty nice vintage stereo amp. He has two, but my apartment was so small I sadly only had room for one. We replaced our coffee table with this thing, laid face down onto our thin office carpet. Tired of his crummy tunes, I tested the Geneva Convention breaking device when they weren't home. Holy cow. I had to take everything down from the tables, counters, and shelves because they would shake off. I prepared audio files to feed the stereo. I was giddy like a kid with a new Christmas toy. I turned it on when I left for work and got my wife up to send her to her parents. I came home from work and hung out with her parents until it was close to bedtime. They resisted for 3 days. On day 2, I found a pile of manure on my doorstep, but it didn't faze me. I cycled between sine, saw, and square waves in clashing chords. I'm gonna pause the story here. I wanted to know what kind of audio torture this guy was inflicting, so I looked up those audio waves and I'm gonna play them here. Don't worry, I turned the volume way down so it won't blow out your eardrums, but this is what it sounds like. Here is the sine wave, here is the square wave, and here is the sawtooth wave. And now back to the story. Marching music, Washington Post march on loop. Preaching clips, they weren't just atheists, but outspoken anti-Christian, so it was a must. The most stupid songs you could think of, Captain Planet theme song, chicken dance, etc. This poor old house rattled in ways I didn't think possible. The vibrations from the sine wave would make your vision blur. I eventually got a text from him that read, "Sorry man, you can stop now." I did not. He needed a few more days to let it sink in. Plus, I had so much fun putting it together. They complained to the police and the landlord. There was nothing they could do since I wasn't doing anything wrong. I didn't even hear music during the time of peace to follow. It was so quiet. They would build up their courage and try again every few weeks when I wasn't home, but my wife was. I then showed her how to tame the beast so she could let it loose while I was away. I had to give them a spanking every now and then, but they learned. They were so happy when we moved out. Since I am a simple man, I would rate this story music emoji, injured emoji, devil emoji. So a little backstory. I have a very good relationship with my mom, so I FaceTime and text with her regularly, though I have never called her because there is no point to do this. My mom and manager are also very good friends and knows when I am there. I am always showing my location with her as she worries about me. And the cast for this story is Entitled Mom, Entitled Boy, Sweet Girl, my mom, me, and Bolt, a cute doggo. So let's begin. This happened a few hours after my shift ends and I'm still sitting in my normal spot in the McDonald's. I take her vest off so she could play with some kids that were in there earlier and just let her sleep as she looks tired when she returned to me. I was just sitting there, barely anyone else in the store, drawing on the tablet part of my laptop, making a drawing in my sketchbook more solid, until entitled mom, entitled brat, and sweet girl walk into the store. I overhear the sweet girl, looks around 6 to 7, and entitled brat, looks to be a teenager, arguing about something. It sounds like he is making fun of the girl's dress, which I thought was unfair. Her dress was really cute. But entitled mom sides with the boy and agrees the dress is gross and says, "I don't know why your father bought you that hideous dress." The girl is visibly hurt by this and walks away from them. This is when she walks over to me. She sees Bolt in my drawing on my tablet. She walks up next to me and looks at my drawing. "That's a cool robot and your dog is cute. What's his name?" I look at her and go to sign to her as it is a habit, not thinking she will probably not know sign language. She doesn't and gives me a weird look. Thinking fast, I turn my sketchbook to a blank page near the back and write, "I'm sorry, sweetie, I cannot speak. I am mute. I use a thing called sign language to talk. Thank you, I like it too. Her name is Bolt. You can pet her if you like." After a few seconds of her reading what I said, she looks at me. "That's so cool. She is cute too." She then goes and pets Bolt, who does not move as she is sound asleep. I just smile and get back to what I was doing for a few seconds before. Snatch! My sketchbook is grabbed and taken off the table by entitled brat. "Your drawings suck. Why do you even do it anymore?" I look at him shocked and confused by why he grabbed my sketchbook, not even registering the fact he insulted my drawings. I take back my book, ripping the drawing I was just working on. "Her drawings are not stupid. They're cool." "No, they're not. Anyone can draw better than her." Now realizing he was insulting my work, I get the maddest I get during this whole encounter. Standing up, which in itself is very intimidating, but I am wearing a tight red tank top this day and it shows my muscles very clearly. I have a six-pack and a little on the buff side, which is not intimidating if you're an adult, but if you're around my size, it is. This kid was taller, yes, but not enough to easily overpower me. He sees this and, like a lot of kids, runs off, and I sit back down smiling at Sweet Girl, who smiles back, probably never seeing anyone stand up to her brother. But no, we are nowhere near done with this. Moments later, he is back with entitled mom. "What the heck did you do to my son? Sweet Girl, stop petting that dirty mutt." "But Mom," she was cut off. "I asked you a question, brat. Answer me." "Mom," she's cut off again. "You're scared now, kid, that I have an adult with me." "Answer me." "Mom, she threatened to beat me if I didn't give her money. She's probably homeless." All of this, I never get a chance to think or even try to sign with her, but finally, Sweet Girl gets a word in. "Mom, she can't talk. She's mute." I look at her thankful, but this does nothing to calm her down. "Don't you dare raise your voice at me. That's complete nonsense. Of course she can speak. She's just a homeless witch. She probably just said that to get you on her side." At this point, I'm actually freaking out as I don't know what to do. I don't want to reach for my book or tablet as I'm afraid she will attack me. I really don't think signing to her would work and probably only make her mad. All the while, Sweet Girl looks at me with embarrassment and shame. "Gosh darn it, say something! Stop it with this mute BS!" At this point, she must have noticed my phone laying on the table. Grabbing it, I get scared as I think she is stealing it, but she says, "Let's see what your parents think about you threatening kids and walking around like a prostitute." I was wearing a red tank top that showed very light cleavage, less than she was showing, black jeans, they had neon paint all over them, and one of those hoodie jean jackets. She opens my phone. I don't have a password on it because it's very old iPhone 4 as I don't really need a phone for much. I don't really use it much except to listen to music. She goes to my contacts and calls my mom. She answers in seconds as the only time she gets a call from my phone, it's an emergency. She had to put it on speaker to embarrass me. At this exact moment, entitled brat asks, "Mom, can I take her laptop?" Who is this? Is something wrong with my kid? Entitled mom seems a little shocked that she immediately knows it's not me, but starts with a very smug tone. "Yes, miss, I have her right here, and she is being extremely rude to me and my children." She is cut off by my mom. "I extremely doubt that, miss. She is mute and has never been rude in her life. Now please return her property or I will call the cops." Looking more enraged now. "How dare you? Your teenage daughter is walking around like a prostitute with some stray. She even stole my son's laptop." Miss, I do not like you talking about my daughter and her service dog like that. I know for a fact my daughter does not have a violent bone in her body and would never steal anything. Give her back her laptop, her phone, and whatever else you stole, or I will personally make sure you are arrested for theft, along with harassing a disabled person. Also, make it my goal in life to make sure you get as much time as possible for it. My mom is the county's district attorney. Now stop harassing my daughter and return her property before I get angry. Entitled mom is stunned at this and goes to respond, probably to not look bad in front of her kids. How dare you speak to me this way? My husband will have you and your daughter in jail by... My mom cuts her off again. My mom does not take any flack. Ma'am, I am the district attorney of the county we are in. I know any cop that you would know. It is my job to make sure criminals like you get the book thrown at them. Now, I will ask you one last time before I personally come down there and make sure you are arrested and make sure your kids are taken by Child Protective Services. Give my daughter's property back. She says all of this in the very cold, very serious, and very scary tone me and my sister know from our childhoods, which also probably gives murderers nightmares. Entitled mom just stands there frozen. I thought it was over. I was wrong. Entitled mom seems to get some courage back. Fine, if you want to be like that and defend your My mom hangs up. Within minutes, there are 4 police police cars there. My manager is with me in my booth with all my stuff safely back in my bag. Bolt leashed to the table so she doesn't run off to play with her police friends, and the mom is being loaded in the back of one of the cop cars cussing like a sailor. The kids waiting with the police officers for their dad to come to get them. I'm giving a statement to one of the officers that knows how to sign. Also, Sweet Girl has one of my older drawings of a unicorn and flowers. Also, Sweet Girl said my outfit was cool. My mom was there about 20 minutes later and drives me home after she deals with the police and the kid's father, who was a police officer. He apologizes a lot for his wife. They apparently were going through a really messy divorce and fighting for custody of the kids. Apparently, she's abusive towards Sweet Girl. My mom later told me the whole time during the trial of the mom she was trying to get her fired and accused her of making stories up about her. But it came out that the house she was staying at with her boyfriend, where her kids stayed while they were with her, was cooking meth in the basement. She was charged with child endangerment, drug trafficking, theft, attempted theft, and child abuse. I don't know how long she got. All right, so this is a story of one overprotective mom versus another overprotective mom. The difference is one is just an entitled parent. The other is a freaking district attorney. And for the younger audience out there who doesn't know what a district attorney is, the district attorney is the lawyer that the cops work with to make sure that bad guys get put in jail. And since I am a simple man, I'll rate this story police car emoji, judge emoji, unicorn emoji. That was r/pro revenge, and if you are a simple fan, let me know down in the comments what you think of these stories using emojis. Welcome to r/entitled parents, where we have parents so entitled that it actually drives them to murder. A little backstory. About a year ago, I was diagnosed with a cancer of the nasal cavity, stage 2. The tumor was quite large, but thankfully benign. Edit, people have pointed out I formulated this wrong. By benign, I wanted to shorten the fact it still did not spread into other tissue, thus it was still contained, which is what I thought the word meant. I apologize for my gaps in knowledge. To get it removed, I first had to undergo aggressive chemotherapy to make it smaller. Thanks to the chemo, I had severe alopecia, hair loss, which made most of my hair and even eyebrows and eyelashes fall out. At some point, I had to go bald, but I wore a wig because I didn't want to look like a skinhead neo-Nazi. I'm 6'4" and pretty muscular, so I thought people would assume. So once, after a long chemo session in the hospital, I took the bus home. There's only one bus that goes from the hospital to where I live, so I took that one only to see it was absolutely packed. I felt awful thanks to the chemo, so I asked a middle-aged dude to let me sit. He was very understanding and gave me his spot without complaining. If you're reading this, thanks bro. 2 stops later, enter entitled mother, a lovely whale with an "I demand a parley with the CEO" haircut and a 12-some-year-old kid. It took her roughly 5 seconds to see the bus was packed, start looking for a free seat, spot me, and start marching, or in her case, trying to fit in the aisle between the seats while shoving others aside, to me. When I saw her, I knew I was screwed. She then stood next to me and decided to talk to me. This is the conversation that followed. "Hey, could you let my kid sit down?" You mean me? Who else?" "Oh, I'm sorry, but I'm on my way from the hospital and..." "So are we." Nonsense, the stop was a few kilometers away from the hospital. "My boy just broke his leg and we're coming straight from the ER. Her kid was standing next to her without any support, clearly embarrassed. "He's standing next to you completely fine." "Look here, boy." I am 21 years old. My kid deserves to sit down. Look, madam, I'm sorry, but I just got back from a chemo session in the hospital and I need to sit down and rest. I then moved my wig a bit to let her see my bald head. Entitled mother then straight up started yelling in my face. Stop making excuses and get off the freaking seat, you freaking skinhead piece of trash. At this point, I was baffled. I didn't know what to say. The kid was trying to make his mother stop and we had the attention of the whole bus. She then grabbed me and tried to yank me from my seat. I held on tight and thankfully didn't fall off. Now enter old gentleman, my savior. Will you shut the F up, you dumb cow? Who do you think you're talking to? With an ice-cold voice, stop assaulting other passengers or I will be forced to step in. Also, every dumb moron could see that the dude has cancer. No, he's just a freaking skinhead. He's got no eyebrows, you moron. Seems like that really offended entitled mom because she spun around on the spot and threw a falcon punch in the old gentleman's face. I was shocked and in disbelief. The whole bus was flabbergasted and the kid probably wished he'd never been born. Old gentleman then said something unbelievable and a golden sweet karma moment followed. Okay, that does it. Harassing passengers on the bus, physical assault against a passenger, and now assaulting an officer. You're in deep trouble, lady. Old gentleman then pulled out a badge and told her to stay where she was. Then he pulled out his phone, called someone, and told her that she was being arrested. I couldn't believe it. Old gentleman was a bloody cop. At this point, entitled mom was as white as a wall. The bus had just come to a stop, so she decided she'd make a run for it, but other passengers blocked her way. She then also got charged with resisting arrest thanks to this. 3 stops later, a police car was waiting for the entitled mom and entitled kid. Entitled kid told me he was sorry for his mother's behavior and I felt really sorry for the kid. He wasn't a bad child, but his mother was a hellspawn. Old gentleman then talked to me and asked me if I wanted to press charges, to which I gladly said yes. Took a statement and thankfully was kind enough to let me solve everything on the phone, so I didn't have to come to the police station for questioning. In the end, entitled mom got some jail time. I think it was a few months and some community service. I, in return, got a good story to tell and the sweet taste of instant karma. Right now, I'm riding the same bus home as I just got back home from the hospital after a checkup, which reminded me of this. A friend who's sitting next to me told me I should post it here. He, as much as myself, also couldn't believe that such people existed, but it seems I proved it to him. I should also note that the surgery went well. I was declared cancer-free in November and my hair is slowly returning. Also, I don't need to wear a wig anymore. The thing I can't understand is, if she thought this guy was a skinhead, why on earth would she talk to him like that? Coming up to a muscular skinhead and yelling into his face seems like the fastest way to get a one-way ticket to a curb stomp. Some backstory. I'm in a D&D group with a couple of friends from nearby, and one of the other members of the group was a kid who was about 15 years old. He's a really sweet kid, likes helping other people out, and he's a big fan of Dungeons and Dragons. He also has cancer in both of his lungs. He's from a religious family that basically forces him to act pure while he's in their sight. The mom is Westboro Baptist Church level rabid, and as a quick aside, for those of you who don't know, that church is the church where the people stand outside of like funerals with the signs that say God hates the F word. While the dad is just a sensible person who just tries to get him to be a good kid. When he's out of sight of his parents, he He just does normal teen stuff. He joined our and yelling into his face seems like the fastest way to get a one-way ticket to a curb stomp. Some backstory: I'm in a D&D group with a couple of friends from nearby, and one of the other members of the group was a kid who was about 15 years old. He's a really sweet kid, likes helping other people out, and he's a big fan of Dungeons and Dragons. He also has cancer in both of his lungs. He's from a religious family that basically forces him to act pure while he's in their sight. The mom is Westboro Baptist Church level rabid. And as a quick aside, for those of you who don't know, that church is the church where the people stand outside of like funerals with the signs that say God hates the F word. while the dad is just a sensible person who just tries to get him to be a good kid. When he's out of sight of his parents, he just does normal teen stuff. Because of his mom, the only books he was allowed to own were Christian books and Bibles. He joined our group mainly as a way to escape his home life and his mom.